No intro today. Okay, we're having all kinds of difficulties there. Did the intro thing play?
It played, man. I don't know what's going on in South America, but or in Central America. We all saw it.
Right. All right. Well, anyways, welcome back, everybody. I guess we're here again. We're having some live show difficulties, but for those of you listening through the audio streams, you'll not even know the difference. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. Good to have you all here again. As usual, we got Sandy with us. How's it going, Sandy?
Hey, I'm awesome. Excited to be here again and create some more great content and to hear more about your journey. Maybe we'll get into that before we get into the show.
Yeah, we're here now. We just got settled in. We've been here for almost a week. And so yesterday, I actually just posted the walkthrough video of the property that we bought to flip. So if anyone's interested in seeing that, it's on YouTube now. Just YouTube my name and you can see what we got going on. So we're pretty excited. Yeah, it's a good adventure so far.
Costa Rica. I've seen a few people asking questions about it, and they want to learn more about what you're doing. So I think it'll be cool to maybe talk about that a little bit as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to be working as a realtor here too. For anyone looking for investment properties, let's do it.
Even better.
Yeah. Okay. So as usual, you can go to our website, breakthrough.reipodcast.ca. There you can listen to all the past episodes. You can get in touch with everyone that we've had on the show, and you can get our free gift.
Yeah, the ultimate strategy for building wealth through real estate. And if you sign up there, you'll get that, which is a document on the strategy we've used for many years to build wealth in real estate. And you'll also get on our list so you never miss out on a show. I know a lot of people rely on that. They mention, they get triggered with an email every time, and it just reminds them to go listen and check out what's going on with us. So do that. You'll hear about anything else we have coming as well, as far as maybe live events, street tours, property tours, all that sort of fun stuff. I don't know if you got a delay, Rob, or I was waiting for you to.
I thought I lost you for a minute there. I don't know. We're having we're having a few technical difficulties today, but it's all good. Yeah. What else? They should go over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. So if you haven't done that yet, it obviously helps us out a lot. It lets more people know about the show. So please go over and let us know what you think. Sandy, what's
Absolutely.
up? What do you got going on?
One thing we're working on, which would be exciting, maybe in the next, maybe by next episode, we'll be able to share a bit about it. Just working on it'll be our largest deal in terms of residential units. It's 45 units. So
wow.
We're hoping to acquire that one, and it won't be. Well, we're just finalizing the deal there. So I think it'll come together here in the next few days, and then that'll be exciting to share. We can talk about what we're doing there. We're basically using the same model we typically use, just at a bit of a bigger scale there from what we've done in the past. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting one to go through that. It's a renovation project, and we're going to remove some tenants, upgrade some units, do the typical BREI strategy that we love to do on everything.
Yeah, that sounds cool, man. 45 units, good job. And you guys always do a really, really kick-ass job at renovations. So I'd like to see some before and afters of it. I think that'll be pretty sweet.
Well, we'll have before and afters along the way, of course. It'll be a 2-year thing.
Oh yeah,
give or take.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 years. But yeah, no, it'll be cool. We'll share more about it as we go.
Right on. Okay, well, I guess that's it for now. I think we've worked through our glitches and we're ready to get on with some real helpful information for everybody.
Sounds great.
So I just want to. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome our guests, Josh Stevenson and Brent Peterson. They are with a company called InvestNorth. So welcome, guys. Yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
I'll share a bit about you guys before for the audience, and then if there's anything to add in, feel free. But Josh and Brent are both full-time real estate investors, both from the hometown of Orillia, Ontario, just heading up north towards cottage country, or maybe the start of cottage country, I guess, for a lot of people. And these lifelong friends work together as English teachers in Czech Republic, Taiwan, and they've traveled extensively throughout Central America, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand. So been all over the place. And Brent bought his first investment property in Lethbridge, Alberta in 2011 while working in the oil industry. And Josh house hacked in the oil industry as a roughneck, I should say. I missed that section there. Josh house hacked his first duplex in Barrie, Ontario in 2008 while working as a grade 8 teacher. And by 2019, both Josh and Brent had settled back in their hometown of Orillia and made the decision to start buying investment properties together and forming the corporation, like we said, Invest North. And Invest North currently holds over 82 doors, valued at over $13 million. Properties all over, kind of in this same kind of headed towards Northern Ontario region there. Orillia, Sunridge, North Bay, and Cobalt. And Josh and Brent manage all of their units themselves and have built a portfolio using exactly 0 joint venture partners. So that's pretty cool and exciting. It's awesome to hear kind of everyday people kind of going from bit of a rags to riches sort of a thing, and then really coming out with a great portfolio by the sounds of it. So excited to learn more about it, guys.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. We're so excited about this portfolio we've developed in a very short period of time. We're actually, the corporation is less than 2 years old, I think.
Yeah, it happened really fast actually when we got going, for sure.
Yeah, so I think it just shows you the power of joining forces, and two heads are better than one. We problem solve together. We deal hunt together. We really talk about how we're going to deal with tenants. In a kind of we both are married to women named Jessica. So
make it easy, right?
That's right. So the Jessicas weigh in on a lot of this stuff too. And when you have 4 people in a room, I just find like the decisions that come out of that room are a hell of a lot better than me making decisions on my own. So I really value these guys.
I agree with that.
And we're moving forward quickly. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. You guys have been to a lot of different places now. Did you go to all these places together, or were you just like separately? These are different places that you've been.
I'll tell you a little bit about that. And interestingly enough, the two big events that happened in my life that led me to what I'm doing now one was a motorcycle accident and one was a bankruptcy. So when I was 15 years old, I was driving my dirt bike on the highway, as you do, and I was hit by a truck. And I was put in the hospital, and I was almost paralyzed. And I had to go to court, of course, because I was driving without a license, without insurance, and this and that. And this is just before no-fault insurance was on the scene, and I was sued for $10,000. And because I was 15, my father had to pay that. And he said, Josh, when you're done university, you're going to pay me back. And I said, oh, whatever. That's a million years away. So when I finished university, he did remember that. So I thought, well, how am I going to get 10 grand? I just got a degree in environmental science. I don't really have any job prospects. So I answered that in the newspaper. This is before the internet. And I went over to Korea and I started teaching English. And I liked it so much. I taught English in Korea. And then I was teaching English in the Czech Republic a little bit later. And Brent happened to be dating my sister. And they dated for about 10 years. So he almost became my brother-in-law. And he came over to the Czech Republic and he joined us. And we worked in a school in the Czech Republic. And then when that was finished, we worked in a school in Taiwan. And then we had this huge earthquake, actually, in 1999. Yeah. It was a big
7.6.
Yeah, in our hometown of Taichung was hit really bad. We had to live in an earthquake refugee center for 10 days before we actually left the country.
Yeah, that was it for that.
Yeah,
I didn't want to experience any more of that.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So then we returned to Canada, and I opened an English language school. And Brent and I worked together again in Toronto in this English language school. And we actually got shut down by SARS. You remember SARS back in the day? It's not too
I do.
yeah, to what's going on now. And after running that English language school on Queen Street in Toronto for 3 years, I actually went bankrupt. And Brent took off. I think you went to Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, I kept traveling. Yeah, I took off for about 2.5 years after that. And basically I couldn't, I wasn't ready to be a grown up. I couldn't make up my mind. I didn't know what to do. So I thought the best thing to do was to go and travel. But eventually, right, I had to come back, and that's, introduce the oil patch.
So after going bankrupt, I decided to become a real teacher because I've been teaching so long anyway. And I was one day I was just made up my mind to get a real job and become a real teacher, like a grade 8 teacher.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for my first job to start up, and I was teaching actually people that were injured on the job site. I was working at a place called Career Essentials, just waiting for my real teaching gig to happen. And I was so bored at work because these guys, they didn't want to do a whole lot of work every day. So I was roaming through the library because I would always look for books to read while I was helping these guys and get around to learning their stuff. And I found a book on investing. And it was just basically me loving reading in libraries. And I found this book on investing. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is the key. This is the key to success. And after reading this book, I decided to buy a duplex in BREI. And I learned about house hacking. I learned about BRRRR strategies. I learned about all kinds of different things. And that kind of just opened my eyes to that world.
Right on. And what was the book?
That particular book, it was a book called Building Wealth One House at a Time. I'll have to check the author, but I think the name of the book or the author is not really that important because I've read so many books since then. It's just about taking that first step. I think some of the most crucial books is of course the Holy Bible of property investing, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Kiyosaki.
Yeah, that was a huge one.
Yeah, that definitely changed everything too.
And The Richest Man in Babylon is a great book.
Napoleon Hill.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I think, I'm sure you guys are the same. Just being a lifelong learner and always evolving as a person, that's the most important thing. I think you go to university and you don't learn a whole lot because you're sometimes busy, partying or chasing girls or whatever. But if you learn to be a lifelong learner, that's the key.
Well, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
That goes beyond real estate, right? That's just so many levels in life. And so how did your careers? You had some interesting career paths there too. How did that? What you learned along the way with that, with Josh teaching, Brent's oil rigs, contracting, that sort of stuff. How did that help you prepare for what you're doing now and running this portfolio, managing it, being investors, managing tenants, all that stuff?
I think that for us anyway, I mean, being a real estate investor isn't for the faint of heart, right? The first 3 properties I think we had, that was probably the toughest time for us. I really felt it was anyway, with buying, we didn't have a lot of money to get into it, and we didn't have access to a real estate really, and A-class tenants. So we started in the, I don't know, C, I think it's fair to say C. And that was really, really difficult. And you just can't quit. And that's what I learned from working on the rigs. I can trash working on the rigs for sure, because it's not a glorious job by any means. I mean, I've never been yelled. I was 31 when I started working on the rigs, and I hadn't been yelled at like that since I was 8. It was really bad. But anyway, that there was a purpose for being there, right? That money, saving as much as I could and working through that was the mindset that I would have to continue to have as I we got into real estate for sure.
Right. Yeah. And I think on my end, I'll just speak a little bit about being a grade 8 teacher. I don't know if you've met a teenager recently, but they're not the easiest people in the world to deal with. But I absolutely love my teaching job. But if you're going to be a teenager, and I work with 13 and 14-year-olds for almost 14 years, and they're at a very kind of pivotal point in their life. The hormones are raging, and someday you're their hero, and the next day you're the zero. So, and I'm sure you guys have dealt with a lot of tenants over the years. You have to be super patient. You have to realize that everybody is going through something every day.
True.
So, teaching really taught me about patience and determination. I never gave up on a student, and we don't give up on tenants until they give us every reason to. So, it's all about forming relationships too. Like I got the best results as a teacher because I would tell them a bit about my life. I tell them about, traveling through the Middle East and going into Afghanistan pre 9/11, and I got to meet the Taliban at one point. And if you open up to kids about your life, they think you're pretty cool.
Yeah,
and
they open up that.
If you coach them in sports, you have a relationship on a different level as well, which is important. And then with tenants too, if you show them that you're a human being, you're not a big, faceless organization, they're willing to work with you a bit more. I think that Matt McKeever said the other day, be friendly, but don't be their friend.
Yeah,
so you don't want to let them in right into your life. But you have to treat them as human beings with decency,
with respect, right?
Yeah. So that kind of translated from teaching into being a landlord for me.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think it's just really, unfortunately, a lot of people don't actually have that common sense, because that's just common sense, for the most part. But I do know people who only think of their tenants as, an income source. And I agree with you. I mean, things get along so much better. And you're absolutely right. I mean, as far as the teenagers go and the ups and downs and stuff like that, like I don't have teenagers yet. My boys are still my boys aren't there yet, but with regards to the tenants, it is like that. I've had I don't even know what'll happen. Like one day, giving one of my tenants a ride somewhere, and the next day, I'm the worst person that's ever lived, because I didn't know about this problem that they had until they actually told me about it. So
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so you guys came back, and now you're primarily in sort of like in the Aurelia area. How did you guys decide on that market?
Well, I moved back home. This is both our hometown. We went to high school here, and that's where we first met each other. We both left for over 20 years. But after living in Toronto and abroad for many, many years, I did return to this hometown of Aurelia. And when I got here, it was ripe for the picking. Like our first few deals, like we were getting triplexes for $200,000. I got a duplex for another $200,000. I bought a fourplex, which is basically one of our best earners now, for $200,000. And this is maybe 8 years ago.
This is 2015. So yeah, there's a duplex in there for $140,000, $157,500.
Yeah,
like it was, and we were here, like we were together, and we were like, this is where we'll start doing business. I had my family here. He had his family here. It just seemed like a smart place to start.
Yeah, and we'd read those books. This is before, like I started doing this before, there were YouTube personalities doing it and stuff. My dad taught me how to renovate all this stuff. So I did it myself. And now there's a YouTube video for everything. So thank goodness for that. But we looked around, we said, hey, this market is amazing. Let's start picking stuff up. We were finding stuff that was cash flowing $1,000 a building.
For sure.
And we just ran with it, and we bought up as much as we could. And we used the conventional banks until they told us to take a hike. And then we all know what happened. The market kind of exploded. and we saw the value of our properties double and then almost triple. And so what we did at that point was we looked to markets north of us that were actually better for producing cash flowing situations. And then, Brent, how do we get into North Bay?
Well, North Bay, yeah. So MLS, basically, instead of just allowing it to focus on whatever town you're in,
I think you're yelling.
Oh, am I yelling? You just blew it up, right? So you could see what was around you. And we knew that to the east and to the west, things were, getting more and more pricey, similar to Aurelia. And the south was definitely not happening. So we thought about Pembroke, Ontario. And then Josh was like, you know what? It's closer to North Bay. So we refinanced some buildings, like refinancing one building in Aurelia, bought 3 buildings up there.
Yeah, amazing.
So that's what we did, right? Like immediately. We got Sunbridge, fourplex in North Bay, got a triplex in North Bay.
14 units in Sunridge. We have
Sunridge.
A little retirement community up there. Everybody's 55 plus, so it's wonderful. They don't give us too many problems.
No, they don't.
Yeah, so it was basically, and interestingly enough, North Bay kind of took off, and we've seen like a 45% increase in the price of buildings there. And from there, we went to Cobalt, Ontario, because we heard that there was a mine reopening, and they're going to be actually recycling Cobalt batteries, taking Cobalt from all over the world and recycling them for electric vehicles.
Well, yeah, battery. They're going to be. It's a refinery. There's a newsletter that comes out from Northern Ontario Business. So I think the idea is that they take non-refined cobalt, possibly from the Congo, and then they refine it into battery-grade cobalt sulfate for, our like green vehicles and whatnot. So this is exciting, right? This is set to be in motion by October 2022.
Right.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
good. And so when did you guys move into Cobalt?
Oh, we've been there a year.
Yeah, it was first property in closed July of 2020.
So yeah,
Right
just to break it down, we've got 28 units in Aurelia. We've got 30 units in North Bay, and in Cobalt we're up to 10 units now, and we got another deal kind of coming through soon.
Yeah, there's possibility.
But Cobalt is kind of what North Bay was, a year ago. Like things are dirt cheap. We just bought a duplex in cash for $70,000, and we had a guy basically fix it up. It was kind of a single family that needed to be reduplex. It was a duplex at one point, then turned into a single family, and then this guy that we hired did the whole thing for 10 grand. You can find people up there that work for very reasonable prices.
Sure.
And now that thing brings in $2,200 a month, and we get to keep 1,200 of it. This is Cobalt. So I mean, boom.
The Northern Ontario markets are very, very interesting right now, right? Because especially people working more remote and the opportunities up there. I'm hearing you kind of just went a little north, a little north, a little north, a little north. A little bit ahead of the mark. You seem to be
ahead of the wave.
Yeah, you're timing it. It seems very good. What's next after Cobalt? Timmins, maybe?
I think we've already talked about that, and we're gonna shut her down after Cobalt.
It's funny you say that, Sandy, but we've been pretty strategic about this, because everything that we owned is in a straight line on Highway 11 up to North Bay, and then another hour and a half due north is Cobalt. So we're basically in a straight line from Aurelia to Cobalt.
Yeah, with one little turn on Highway 17 east out to Rutherglen, but that's as far off the track as we've gone.
So we planned it that way because we do handle all of our own property maintenance. So every 2 weeks we do a water test, and Brent got his water technician license. So we have to take a water sample from a 7-plex just out of town here. It used to be an old public school. It used to be the old Utah Public School that was turned into a 7-plex. So we grab a water sample there. We go to our Sunridge retirement community. We grab another water sample, and we take it to a lab in North Bay. And then we check on all our properties, and we do that every 2 weeks. So we are very strategic about not buying in you know, Sault Ste. Marie or
We thought about it.
Timbuktu. So
Yeah.
we kept it all in a straight line so we could manage it ourselves. But I think we're at the point now where we might go off the beaten path a bit. We haven't decided that yet, though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it sounds like there's definitely still opportunities in the market you're in. And I think something important to point out is, you know, especially in Toronto, people are getting into this thing where they're buying for the appreciation. And I always been one for what you guys are doing, right? Like you buy for the cash flow. Appreciation was just sort of icing on the cake. It happened to take place a couple years after in Aurelia. And I remember that same time too, where, you know, I was just sort of breaking into like the Peterborough market, and everything was sort of stagnant, as Aurelia had been for years as well. And so people are kind of going, oh, I don't really want to invest in these markets because they're not appreciating. And you know, you can look at it that way if you want to, or you can look at it that, hey, I can buy something for a very reasonable price and actually make good cash flow off of it.
100%. Like that's that has been our formula since we started, and I believe 100% that things are working so well for us because we haven't strayed from this plan. Like since we, you know, like it's been different. Like for example, going up to North Bay, right? Like you could go up to North Bay, look at a property, think about it, come back, think about it some more. You know, and then make your decision. You can't do that anymore. It's over, right? So some real estate agents that we know of, they might contact us and they'll be like, oh yeah, no, I got this property for you. You guys are gonna love it. And then they'll talk about a 30-year projection, and that's where we're gonna make our money. And we're like, no, we need this to make money tomorrow.
Yeah. We have very strict criterion points. Like it's got a cash flow out of the gate. We're not into like these 30-year plans or one day over the rainbow you're going to cash flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, I think Sandy and I both agree with that. I mean, it's got to. I mean, maybe not in certain circumstances. I think when you're working on bigger projects and that, you know, you've got other things to consider. But when you're buying definitely smaller stuff, always has to cash flow right from day one.
Yeah, we agree.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's very difficult to build a portfolio of 80 plus units, right? Without, you can't do that on negative, you know, if half of them are negative cash flow, which I've seen some people, you know, if you buy one or two and that's where you're good with, yeah, you can probably handle a few $100 negative every month, right? But 83 units, that's going to be a tough go.
It'll sink you for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
How did you acquire all those units without? So we mentioned no JV partners, which a lot of our listeners I know really are attracted to the joint venture partner model, bringing on money partners. You know, it is a great strategy when you don't have money. You know, you were able to build this out without any partners at all, aside from you two. So what was was that the plan all along, or how did that evolve?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about that. You know, interestingly enough, we did try and get JV partners at the beginning. And if you go to our YouTube channel, Adventures in Landlording, we actually had a channel to begin with just called Invest North. And it was kind of a pitch, like, look what we're doing. Look at the cash flow we're getting. You probably want to, you know, if you're interested, give us a call. And we didn't really get much action, you know.
Zero.
So then what we started doing was just like looking at our portfolio as a global portfolio. Where's the equity in these buildings? And then we started, you know, topping the buildings and using the equity to buy the stuff up north. But everything kind of broke wide open when we found the no money down deals. So once you have a substantial enough portfolio, you have equity in a number of buildings, a lender, and we deal with credit unions nowadays because they have a little more lax kind of rules. You know, like the big 5 or the big 6 banks, they have very, as you guys know, very strict rules of what they will lend you and what they won't and why. Credit unions have a little more leeway. So what we started doing, and we've done six buildings like this, and they all cash flow really well, is Brent usually is the deal funder. He will float me a deal, say, man, look at this deal. Like it cash flows really well. We'll have the realtor send some numbers on it. And then I will approach them about a VTB. I'll approach the seller and say, well, the seller's agent. I'll say, well, listen, if the lender lends us 20% for the down payment, will he float us a deal? Mm-hmm. So the credit union gives us 80%. The seller gives us a second mortgage or a vendor take back mortgage of 20. And we get a building outright without paying anything. We pay the closing costs, but that's just a few grand, which is not a big deal. So we've done 6 buildings like that. And after about 4, we started doing blanket mortgages. So basically, the credit union will say, well, you guys, you got a lot of buildings now. So basically we want to target a specific building. If you do not pay back the VTB on this specific building, we're going to take the equity out of this thing you own in Aurelia or out of this thing you own in a different location. So basically you're putting up collateral from another building. But like I said, yeah, it's just once you have enough equity and enough buildings, the doors kind of open up. Yeah.
Sure. Instead of like selling that building or refinancing it and then increasing your mortgage and taking away from your cash flow, you just blanket mortgage it. So it's 100% financed. It's just that the 20% is not tacked to the building in question. It's on something else.
And I'll tell you one more thing about that. In order to do that, I contacted every credit union in Ontario, and everybody said no except for one.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna reveal the name because I don't want them to be flooded with calls, because not everybody can do this. You need a substantial portfolio. But after we got the one yes, and that there's a lesson in that. Don't give up. Keep asking. Keep knocking on doors. Keep making phone calls. And once they said yes, it really opened up all the doors, and they did it a bunch of times. And then another credit union jumped in and said, "Hey, man, we'll do that too."
Yeah, like look at the party going over here. Like we would like you to also do something like that with us.
So we want to party with you too.
We want to party too. So,
so anyway, so that works. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another good point is like, yeah, the answers don't always jump out at you. You've got to look for them, right? Like you have to be on the phone constantly calling and figuring out who you can work with. And I love the whole credit union thing just because it is they can assess your personal situation. They're not just looking at the rule book saying, "Oh, sorry, you don't fit into this mold, so we can't lend to you anymore."
Yeah. And one thing the credit union did say, that they paid us a compliment. They said, well, your portfolio is really clean because you don't have 27 JV partners kind of muddying the waters. So if it's just Brent and me, they can look at it in a very simplistic way. They have all this equity. It doesn't, 4% doesn't belong to this dude and 16% doesn't belong to this dude. So because we've kept it clean, it's kind of open doors as well. And we've been told that by the credit unions.
That makes a lot of sense. I know the muddying the waters with the JVs does create a bit of a mess at times with that. And I think there's starting to, it feels like there's a lot more these days, credit unions or more private type investor groups out there that are willing to get a little more creative. Have you guys done any more like creative structures of deals? I mean, that's pretty creative right there. I think that's a great strategy for a lot of people to utilize and go for those no money down, quote unquote, deals. Anything else you guys have done that has been kind of a bit outside the box?
Yeah, we bought a house. It was actually a fourplex from Facebook.
Yeah, we did.
So there was a woman, and it's funny, people will sell houses wherever, like Kijiji, the property guys, So Brent's Jessica, not my Jessica, was perusing Facebook, and she's shot me a deal. Hey, look at this woman's selling a fourplex over in Rutherglen, which is just east of North Bay. So we got in touch with her personally, and we struck up a deal. And we did. She did have a realtor that she worked with. He was involved just to write up the purchase agreement. He wasn't. I think he got 2% of the deal. That ended up being a no money down deal. She took a she lent us 20% of the building's value. And that Rutherglen building from Facebook cash flows us, I'm just looking at it now, $2,023 a month.
Oh, it's, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
It's
so
another one of those situations where you've gone, like, people want to look at, let's say, a city like North Bay, and they want to see, like, what is the city of North Bay offering? Schools and business. And when you go out to, like, a place like Rutherglen or a place like Cobalt, that sort of scares people away. And we're not frightened by that. Nobody's leaving. We don't feel that they are. Like, if you go and drive through Cobalt, for sure it's seen better days, but nobody's leaving.
Well, the thing is, like, a lot of investors look at, the market dynamics. Is there a factory in town?
Who's the employer?
Right. And we think that's solid for sure. But also, you have to realize, like, there's a province-wide housing shortage going on right now. And now that COVID is dying down, we're going to get 400,000 new immigrants to Canada per year. That's the projection, right? A lot of them end up in Ontario. A lot of people are leaving the city because they can work remotely now, and that's kind of been established. I think they might rein it in again, but I think the precedent has been set. So you're seeing these towns being populated with city people.
Sure.
And people are willing to, you go off the beaten path to get a backyard and, be able to retire or actually have, more of a piece of the pie.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And probably for maybe under $100,000 or under 200 at least.
Oh,
That doesn't hurt either.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
If you go to the Arctic Circle, for sure.
But you know what the thing is, like, you can talk to any given investor. I'd say pretty much any given investor, and say, they'll say, I did all the research, I looked at economic fundamentals, and it turns out I could invest right where I was living.
Right.
That's usually the story. Like, everyone wants to be smart and talk about economic fundamentals and that kind of thing, but you can be in any given market, and that shouldn't stop you from investing. You can do it. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you guys. I mean, unless there's a staggering amount of, like, people leaving this particular town for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
but I think, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of getting sick of the naysayers that say the party's over and you can't get a cash flowing property anywhere. I think those people are just taking the easy way out, being a little bit lazy. You can find a cash flowing property. You just have to do it through unconventional means. Like, I know I've got a nephew who we've coached. He's 26. He's got 6 houses right now. And he's gone to North Bay because he saw us doing it. And now he's in Elliott Lake. And Elliott Lake is, halfway between Sault Ste. Marie and Sudbury. Yeah. And he looked at a map and he's like, okay, this is the only town of 10,000 between Sault Ste. Marie and Sudbury.
Perfect.
And he went up there and made some connections. And now he's on his 3rd house up there. And this kid's a hustler. He's finding deals. And he's from Newmarket, right? You just have to, have the bravery to go off the beaten path, and it's all about work ethic too, right? Just beating the pavement, making calls, getting on the internet,
Learn about it. If you can change the use, that's another good way to do it too. Change the use, make it perform better by adding another unit to it or something like that, right? There's always ways of you can find cash flowing deals. You just got to look for them. Like you said, you can find the lender, you can find the deal. They're not going to fall into your lap.
Yeah, I'll tell you one deal we just did. You talked about changing the use. This was in February of this year. We saw a 5-plex Airbnb motel in North Bay on Lakeshore, and it was $100,000 a unit, and we're not used to paying that, but we thought, it's an Airbnb hotel.
It's coming vacant.
When you buy it, everybody leaves. So we just saw the dollar signs. So we bought it for $520, and all of the Airbnb people left, and we set market rents on every single unit. And now that guy cash flows $2,178 because things in North Bay have changed significantly. You
Sure.
used to like rent out 1 bedrooms for $700. We're renting them out for $1,200 now. So that just shows you. And we saw that opportunity. We're like, get a building where every unit is vacant.
What?
That's
Yeah.
unheard of.
No.
So yeah,
That's one of the challenges a lot of times, right? Finding value is that you're getting a bit of a mess of a tenant situation often. So that's a beautiful thing to find. How do you guys share responsibilities, and how do you coordinate delegation of that, and what does that look like with you guys handling kind of, I assume, somewhat 50-50 in everything? How does that work?
go on.
Yeah, well, we kind of like, for example, I take care of all the tradespeople, right? Like I know all the people that we need to phone in case whatever needs to be done. For example, today we had to deal with a septic pump issue. So I'm on a first name basis with that guy. I think it's important that you know the guy that operates the honey truck very, very well. So yeah, I take care of all that sort of stuff. And then when it comes to like renovating, Josh and I don't really even talk about it. Like we know what we're good at, and we go and do it. Like I'll do the flooring, I'll do the trim, I'll do the finished carpentry. He'll do the paint. He'll do the caulking. He'll do the plumbing. I don't touch the plumbing. He'll do that, and we just kind of know what to do, and we go and do it. It's one of the benefits of working together because we kind of think the same. Like we'll never be in a situation where he's like, "Oh, I think we should do a granite countertop." Like we know what we want. We know what works, and we've worked together long enough that we just know what we're supposed to do.
The other thing is both our wives are in on it. So like of the 4 of us, we all live off the cash flow, and it's only cash flow. My wife, Jessica, she's the tenant liaison. So she deals with all the calls from, all 82, about to be 87 units. So that's tough. She's on the phone all the time, and I overhear the conversations. That's a tough job, and I don't think she'll do it forever. And Brent's wife is good with numbers, and she's the bookkeeper and the treasurer. We actually meet every 2 weeks, and we take minutes. Like this is a serious corporation. We take it seriously. Brent is great at finding deals. I'd like to think that I'm pretty good at swinging deals, talking to realtors, sellers, and trying to work out a creative angle where we don't have to use very much of our money. So everybody plays to their strengths, and we're all really transparent too. Like, if Brent's pissing me off, I'll tell him and he'll tell me. But the thing is, like, we've been friends for 30 years too. So we know each other like really, really well. And, everything's on the table. It's not like, if something was bothering me, it's not like I'm going to, keep it under my collar.
No, we'll deal with it.
Yeah,
that's sort of what you meant, right? Like,
oh yeah, that's great. It sounds like one of the best things in there, I think, was just you meet every 2 weeks and take minutes, and it's a business.
It
so
is.
You're not just taking things and hoping it works out. You're treating it like it needs to be, especially at this level, right? When you have that many properties, and there's obviously issues daily, probably that surface. Sure. You can't just let those things linger. Just as you said, even if you have a problem with each other, you can't let that linger. It's gonna be a lot worse, in 2 weeks from now than it is today.
You know what? Before we blow past this, I think it might be important to dig into what you said a little bit about just finessing the deal, right? When it comes to this VTB portion, the 20%. So let's just break that down for people. Like basically, if you're buying a building, the bank will most of the time finance. I'm surprised to hear 80%, but in your case, 80% of the deal. And then you're required to come up with the other 20% of as the down payment. Mm-hmm. So you will talk to the owners of the building and get them to agree to essentially hold that part of the mortgage, and you'll pay a certain amount, just like you would in interest to the bank, to them.
Yes.
Right. So, but how do you present this to oftentimes people who barely can grasp the concept or not really into that kind of thing?
Well, okay, this is the way I present it, and I usually give them some pretty rudimentary numbers to back up what I'm saying. Now, there are 2 huge benefits to a vendor take-back mortgage. Okay, the first benefit is basically when somebody lends you the 20% down payment. okay, they're not going to pay as much capital gains tax when they sell the building. Okay, so they, let's say for simplicity's sake, a building is $100,000, just to keep it really simple, even though no building really is anymore, except for a few that we buy. So that $20,000, let's say the person owns it outright, they're going to pay a big capital gains tax on that $100,000. But if they lend you $20,000, they're only paying a capital gains tax on the $80,000, and the $20,000 will be paid to them over a 3, 4, or 5 year period. Mm-hmm. And the tax hit is not as substantial out of the gate, and they actually end up saving money in the long run. The other huge advantage to a vendor take back mortgage is you get paid twice. You get paid when you sell the building, you get that big lump sum, mm-hmm. and then you get monthly payments from us. And we always offer 5%.
Interest only.
Yeah. Well, we ask for interest only payments.
Sometimes they want to blend them, but.
Yeah. But so basically every month they're getting paid again from that same building, and they're getting monthly payments. And that's just a lot of the time gravy. That's money they can use to, help their kids out or take a vacation or something. So once you show them the actual numbers, and we actually show them how much more money they're going to make over the course of the loan. So if they give us a vendor take back on a $100,000 building again, they're going to make more than $100,000 in the end, because as they get paid back that 20%, over 5 years, they're going to make
5% monthly.
Right. So the building ends up making them, $110,000 or $115,000, depending on the duration of the loan. So it's a wonderful idea. And the reason it works for us is because we have a big portfolio, and people see, first of all, you're going to close the deal. Secondly, they're good for the money. And thirdly, they're such charming guys. How can I say no?
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
They're so some of these VTB deals that we did, they're real gems, like really awesomely performing buildings. They don't seem to be any issues. But some of the VTB deals we got was because the owners had really made some bad business choices with how they decided to run the building and who they put in there. So Josh and I, with experience, were like, okay, well, we'll take it off your hands and we'll clean it up. And the VTB would be a good way to do that. And then and some of the time they're like, for sure, we'll do it this way. I just want to get rid of it. It's a mess.
Yeah, like some of these buildings, they would be hard to sell otherwise. Maybe prior to this market explosion, maybe they'd have an easier time of it now. But in the past, we bought something with a rooming house in it, and 2 of the tenants were not paying their rent, and they continue to not pay their rent.
Haven't paid their rent since they took over.
But the building still cash flows a bit. We know that when we finally get these guys out through the landlord tenant board, that thing's going to cash flow $1,200. So it's basically a work in progress. And these sellers, they knew they had a big problem on their hands, and this building was turned down by several other people. Mm-hmm. And we were the ones that said, we'll take it on, we'll clean it up, and we'll get it back to the cash flowing building that it should be.
What are some strategies to manage all these units? Like you mentioned maybe a couple there, but you're managing all these doors yourself. How do you do that and still actually find new properties, new opportunities, and not just get bogged down in the tenant management part? Because it is a lot. You mentioned one of the Jessicas is a bit better at it maybe, but there's a lot of challenges there for sure.
Well, we always have an anchor man, not Ron Burgundy, but an anchor man in every building. So if you have a fourplex, you tell one of the tenants, usually somebody who's been there the longest or that wants to take on some responsibility, that they are the go-to person. And we don't even pay these people. Like we give them gift cards, we buy them gifts, we shower them with praise, but we just tell them, hey, you're the guy you're the go-to guy. And when there's a burst pipe or, when there's a major problem with the building, you have to tell us right away. If you can solve a little problem without us driving all the way up, that would be wonderful. But every building needs somebody who's in your corner that's going to tell you what's going on with the building, can solve minor problems, can cut the lawn, can do a little bit of snow shoveling. So we basically have that in every single building, and that is a strategy. We befriend this person, and it's not in a superficial way. We genuinely appreciate what they're doing.
Yeah, like you can trust this person. You know you can, and they kind of like that. They take to it, right?
Right. And there's not necessarily a monetary reward. We're not doing huge rent discounts, but we do show our appreciation, and it has worked so far. So, I mean, it can be as simple as that, just, a personal relationship.
And other things too, like Josh and I have learned certain things along the way. Like, for example, major plumbing issues, we don't do that anymore.
We've tried.
Yeah, we've tried all these things. We've made some massive mistakes. And so, like, when I say that, like, in my phone, I have all the tradespeople, right? So this person that we're speaking about that would take, that would be like the maintenance guy at a particular property. Be like we have a situation, it's a bad one. Like, okay, then you phone the plumber immediately. If it's not a big deal, then on our 2-week journeys up and down, Josh and I will stop and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's great. So what about other challenges that you guys have had along the way? Maybe not necessarily as landlords. You guys sound like you've got that down pretty good. But other things, like, for example, you did talk about the ones that weren't paying. But what about other aches and pains along the way?
Well, if you've been a landlord for a long time, you're going to have some major problems. And I think 95% of it is not giving up. We always say, never give up. You can never give up. And when I was a teacher, it was a real big strain on my personal life because, I coach a lot of sports as well. So I would teach, teenagers all day, which was super taxing. Then I would coach, a basketball game.
You were a mess.
Yeah, I was a mess for many years. And then I'd come home and I'd have to go take care of a leaky toilet, or I'd have to take care of or this or that. So it was putting a real strain on my personal life. My kids told me I was cranky. I finally got to retire from teaching on November 27th, 2020. Always remember that day. And it's not because I didn't like teaching. It was just because, we had so many units at that point. I just could not do both. And I remember one time in geography class, I get a call, from my wife. And I knew it was important because she would never call me. And I took this personal call. And basically, one of our tenants had threatened to blow up a building with a grenade downtown. Like the police had taken the police tape and cordoned off like 3 blocks of downtown because the tenant hated the guy above him and he was playing heavy metal music all the time. So, he brought a grenade up to the guy that lived above him and said, "I'm going to blow you up." So he ended up calling the police and
as you do.
Yeah. Right? So as it turned out, the tenant below had gone to an army surplus store and bought a decommissioned grenade, which they apparently sell, which is ridiculous, and threatened to blow up the building. So I'm in class trying to maintain kind of my composure where I didn't know it was a decommissioned grenade. I thought, oh my God, one of my apartments is going to blow up. I've had a SWAT team at another one of my places. They were cooking drugs in there. I've had people take over one of my apartments. I was in Australia with my family, and a bunch of gang members took over one of my apartments. So I mean, all this stuff is super stressful. And if you add a full-time 9-to-5 career and coaching, and I have 2 children, it was just too much. So since I simplified my life on November 27th, 2020, I've been so chill. Like everybody's complimenting me, man. You're not so wrong.
Yeah, you really are. You really have changed.
Yeah. So I think at one point you gotta pick one or the other. And giving up your day job is a very kind of difficult decision. But I think once you do it and you go full into this, it really, really
the problems aren't that big anymore, right? Like this is what I
because
what I do.
It's the sole focus.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember when you were a contractor, you were miserable too.
Oh man, remember when that tenant's ceiling fell in because there
was so much
that
water
leak,
damage.
and this constant leak got into all the insulation, and then it just like your whole ceiling collapsed.
Yeah. So I mean, dealing with a 9-to-5 job and on all these other concerns it's just a bit too much. So if you can grow it to the point it can become your main gig, your side hustle becomes your main hustle. That's the sweet spot, right?
Yeah, simple.
Well, congratulations on that. That's awesome, and I'm glad to hear. But this is amazing. This is a great story. Both of you guys working full time on this.
Yeah.
So tell us just a little bit. I think you're still doing the Adventures in Landlording, right?
Oh yeah. So we do have a YouTube channel called Adventures in Landlording, and we did that because they're supposed to be kind of funny, informative, educational videos. Like we'll bring our phones out at a job site, and we want to show people that basically being a landlord and getting into property investing is an adventure, like every day. And you guys know this because this career takes you so many different ways. And often, we'll be at back when we had dinner parties or parties, people just want to know what's it like, to deal with these tenants and to deal with home invasions and to deal with this and that. So every day is an adventure. And I used to, we both did a bit of this on our own, but once we started doing it together, it was kind of fun. It's like, did you hear what that guy said? Or did you see
look at this?
Did you see what's going on in that room? And when you're doing it with your best friend, it becomes an adventure, and the mood is lighter. You're renovating together.
It's way like if you were doing some of the things that we've seen together and dealt with, in a very humorous manner, would have made me cry by myself.
Right.
Nobody there to talk you down. Like, it's stuff like that when you're by yourself that really makes you think negatively about the choice that you made. Right? Am I crazy? Am I nuts? Like, why am I doing this? But when he and I started doing it together, it was just so much. It was so much easier. We laugh about it, fix it, and it was just another story.
Mm-hmm.
And someone there to say, "Hey, here's the numbers. That's why we did it." Remember?
we talk about that a lot. Yeah. This thing cash flows $2,000.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, that's awesome. So it's just Adventures in Landlording on YouTube. That's what they'd look up.
Yeah, we're also Invest North on Instagram, investnorth.ca rather.
Mm-hmm.
We post a lot of real estate information, a lot of market information from where we're from, Aurelia, North Bay, Cobalt. We kind of keep people up to date with some of the projects we're doing. But like, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you why we do this. And I'm not trying to monetize YouTube or anything because we don't get that many hits.
That's not a concern.
But if you can change one life or two lives, like I remember, when I was just a school teacher, we just had my salary, and Jessica and I were raising the kids. It wasn't a whole lot of money, but because we had a few income properties, we were able to take our kids to the West Coast, to the East Coast, to Florida, to New York City. We were able to buy a boat. We were able to do all these things that you could never do just on a normal teacher's salary. So, I mean, if we can just get a few more people to buy an income property or two, like a lot, let's be honest, not everybody's going to retire and become a full-time property investor, but an extra building or two can change your life. It can totally change your life. So if people can watch our videos and say, oh my God, it's tough, but these guys are having a good fun doing it, maybe that'll open doors for someone and it can be a life-changing experience. So that was kind of the goal of Adventures in Landlording, like just show people it's not rocket science. You can do it too. Don't take it so seriously.
Yeah,
don't cry into your milk.
Don't. Just my wife Jessica too. She retired in the summertime before he did. So everybody's life here on the four of us has all been changed in a very, very positive way, despite all the little bumps in the road that may occur.
Well, it'll go beyond that with your kids and so on, right? That it can affect generations.
I agree. Like generational wealth was one of the reasons I got into this. And life is so uncertain these days. I feel bad for these kids that are trying to, sorry, not kids, but younger people trying to buy a house these days. It's so tough. A lot of people are gonna need help from their parents. So the fact that I can pass down these houses to my children, that makes me sleep at night. And it's a wonderful thing. Good legacy.
Yeah, incomes and incomes are not appreciating at the same are going up at the same rate as how incomes did not go up 45% in the last year or so, which I think North Bay is somewhere in that range.
It is, yeah.
Right of incomes
I
there
don't
did
know,
not go up
Sandy.
that much.
You better fact check that just to make sure.
I saw it on one of their posts somewhere, Instagram posts. So I know as long as it's true. I believe you guys.
45%, buddy. 45%.
Yeah,
April 20 to April 21, 45.7%.
Oh, look at
I remember getting a 25-cent raise at my old job.
Yeah.
Pretty close to 45%. Okay, so lastly, guys, I wanted to ask you if there was a piece of info or advice that's always stuck with you and how it's helped you along the way.
Okay, I'll go first, and then maybe you can go. So basically, the whole concept of adventures in landlording is to kind of show people the lighter side of this. But Alan Watts is he was an English writer and kind of a philosopher and
Zen master.
Zen master. So what he says, he said it's not about the destination where you're trying to get. It's not about I'll be happy when I get 100 doors, or I'll be happy when I retire. I'll be happy when my marriage starts to work. It's about the journey. So Brent and I both play guitar. He plays a bit better than I do, but you play guitar for the enjoyment of the music. You don't think, oh, I'm gonna really enjoy this piece when I'm done.
Yeah.
So, which is a kind of a weird metaphor, but I like getting up every day and doing this job because I get to do it with my best friend, and both of our wives are in on it, and that's what life is, right? Like you gotta enjoy the moment and not this far off kind of destination or goal that's going to make you happy, in 10 years or 20 years. Enjoy the moment. Life should be a piece of music, not some sort of marathon with an end goal.
Very good. I love it.
Well said.
I love
Me,
it. Guys,
What's that?
what's the best way that people can get in touch with you?
I think through our Instagram page, investnorth.ca. We also have a website, investnorth.ca. So the Instagram page and the web page are the same.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. And watch a YouTube video, Adventures in Landlording. Go have a laugh.
Check it out.
We make a little bit of fun of our tenants now and then, but we love them.
Most
of them, yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. I really appreciate all this. It's been fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, guys. It has been great.
And you're I've been listening to you guys for 2 years, and love the material. Seriously, I've learned a ton. I don't even think I'd be here without a lot of the guests you've had and the information that we get to hear.
You guys play while we're renovating. So.
Yeah, we listen to you guys while we're
sure.
slugging it out.
So
Awesome.
we're that
Love hearing
music
that.
you're talking about.
Yeah, that's it.
Sandy, how can people get in touch with you?
Sandy at McKayRealtyNetwork.com or 289-389-6846.
People can reach me at rob@mrbreakthrough.ca. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time.